All right, we've made it to the final core module, and this might be the most important one yet, because here's the truth. You can have the perfect budget, the most brilliant 3-bucket system, and all the best intentions in the world, but if you can't stick with it for more than a few weeks, none of this matters. So let's talk about how to make budgeting a habit instead of a chore. And spoiler alert, it's not about becoming some sort of financial robot who tracks every penny and color codes spreadsheets. Let me tell you about 2 people I know. Person A checks their budget every single day. They categorize every expense immediately, reconcile their accounts to the penny, and have 17 different spreadsheets tracking every aspect of their financial life. Person B checks their budget once a week, eyeballs their spending, and keeps their financial tracking so simple they could do it on a napkin. Guess which one is still using their budget a year later? And if you guessed person B, you'd be absolutely right. Person A burned out after about 6 weeks and now just hopes for the best. The secret to making budgeting stick isn't perfection, it's consistency. And consistency comes from making it so easy that you can't fail. So let's start with how often you should actually check your budget. The answer might surprise you, way less than you think. If you're checking your budget every day, you're doing it wrong. If you're checking it once a month, you're also probably doing it wrong. The sweet spot for most people is about once a week. Pick a day, maybe Sunday morning with your coffee or Wednesday evening or whatever works for your schedule, and spend 15 minutes seeing how you're doing. That's it, 15 minutes once a week. What you do in those 15 minutes, 3 things. First, check how much money you have left in each of your 3 buckets for the rest of the month. Second, see if you're on track or if you need to adjust anything. And third, plan any bigger expenses coming up in the following week. That's your weekly budget check-in. No complicated analysis, no guilt trips about what you spend money on, and no reorganizing your entire financial life. Just a quick how are we doing and what's coming up next. But here's the thing, you also need to do a monthly review. This is a little more detailed, but not by much. At the end of each month, you look at how your actual spending compared to your budget. Did you overspend in any buckets? Did you underspend? What worked well? What didn't? The key is to treat this as a scientist, not like a judge. You're just gathering data, not passing judgment on yourself. If you overspend on lifestyle, that's not a moral failing, that's just information. Maybe you underestimated how much you actually spend on fun, or maybe you just had an unusual month with extra social events. Use that information to adjust next month's budget if you actually even need to. If you consistently overspend in one area, maybe you need to budget more for that area or spend less in other areas. If you consistently underspend, maybe you can redirect some of that money towards different goals. Now let's talk about tracking methods, because this is where a lot of people get overwhelmed. There are basically 3 approaches: apps, spreadsheets, or pen and paper. The best method is whichever one you actually use. If you love technology and apps make your life easier, there are tons of budgeting apps out there. But here's the thing, don't get sucked into trying to find the perfect app. Pick one that connects to your bank accounts, set up your 3 buckets, and move on with your life. You can always switch it later if it doesn't work out. If you're a spreadsheet person, you can create a simple 3-bucket tracker in about 10 minutes. You don't need formulas or graphs or anything fancy, just 3 columns for your 3 buckets and a way to track how much you've spent from each one. And if you're old school, pen and paper works just fine. Grab a notebook, write down your 3 bucket amounts at the beginning of each month and subtract the expenses as you go. Simple, effective, impossible to crash or needing a reboot. The key is to keep it simple enough that you can actually update it without wanting to pull your hair out. If your tracking method requires more than 5 minutes of work per week, it's probably too complicated. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. What happens when you mess up? And you will mess up, because everyone messes up. You'll overspend one month or forget to track something, or have a week where you just don't want to think about money at all. Here's what you don't do. You don't give up on the whole system because you had a bad week. You don't start over from scratch because you overspent on lifestyle. You don't beat yourself up for being human. Here's what you do. You adjust and move on. Overspent this month? Figure out where that money came from and plan to spend less next month, or adjust your budget to be more realistic. Forget to track for a week? Catch up as best you can and keep going. Had a month where everything went wrong? Start fresh next month. The goal is to never make mistakes. It's to make mistakes that don't derail your entire financial life. Your budget should be flexible enough to handle real life, because real life is messy and unpredictable. Here's another secret. Your budget will probably need to change every few months, and that's totally normal. Maybe you get a raise and need to figure out where that extra money should go. Maybe your rent goes up, unfortunately. Maybe you discover that you're spending way more on groceries than you thought, or way less on entertainment. Don't be afraid to adjust your percentages as you learn more about your actual spending patterns. The 3-bucket system is a framework, not a prison sentence. If 60% for must-haves isn't working, try 55% or 65%. If 20% for lifestyle feels too restrictive, try 25% and reduce something else. The important thing is to make changes deliberately, not just let your budget drift away from reality until it becomes meaningless. Let's talk about accountability, because this is where a lot of people struggle. You might want to tell someone about your budget, a friend, family member, or partner who can check in with you occasionally. But be careful about who you choose. You want someone who will be supportive, not someone who will judge you for every financial decision. Some people find it helpful to have a monthly money date with themselves, time to review their budget, celebrate what went well and plan for the next month. Make it enjoyable. Get your favorite coffee, put on some good music, maybe even give yourself a small reward for sticking with your budget. Here's the most important thing I want you to remember. Budgeting is not about restriction. It's about freedom. When you know where your money is going and you have a plan for it, you can spend money on things you enjoy without guilt or stress. You can handle unexpected expenses without panic, and you can work towards goals that matter to you. A good budget doesn't feel like a diet. It feels like having a plan, and having a plan feels like being in control of your life instead of just reacting to whatever happens. So here's your final assignment. Choose your tracking method and your weekly check-in date. Set up your 3 buckets if you haven't already, and then give yourself permission to be imperfect at this while you're learning. Remember, the best budget isn't the most detailed budget or the most restrictive budget. It's the budget that you actually stick to. And now that you have all the tools you need to create a budget that works for your real life and not some fantasy version of your life, you can actually sit back and enjoy life. So now you're officially a person who knows how to handle their money, and that's a skill that will serve you well for the rest of your life. So congratulations on completing these core modules. If you want to dive deeper into any of these topics, check out the bonus modules. And remember, you're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to be better than you were yesterday. So go forth and budget like the financially responsible adult you've become. I'll see you later.